Welcome to another preview here on Racing Rundown. I'm Eric DeCoster. In this edition, we'll be taking a look at the Group 1 Champion Stakes from Ascot. It is the fifth race on the card, goes off at 4 local time. That'd be 11 Eastern time, a mile and a quarter, with a purse of roughly $725,000 American, at least £737,230, if you will. So a field of 9 will line up. Growing is going to be on the softer side. It's listed good to soft. Apparently, it's a bit more soft than good, though. Baaeed, that's the name of the game. We'll dive into the rest of the field, but it's pretty cut and dry who's going to be taking this one out. But we'll start with the one, Adayar, for Charlie Appleby, his lone representative in this race. William Buick, of course, gets the ride as the Godolphin retainer. His one run this year was exceptional, and this was a horse, of course, who did a lot of good work last year, won the Derby, won the King George, did a lot of good work as a 3-year-old. We haven't gotten to see a lot of it at 4, however. Good comeback win. That's about as simple as it can be. And I think he runs a good race here. I think things are still trending up. He is still the classy horse he was a year ago, despite only being seen once in the past calendar year. I think he'll be a cut below, of course, given the top level in this spot, but I'd love to see him potentially, with such a light season so far, take a crack at the Breeders' Cup after this. I wouldn't be surprised if this was almost a prep run for that, knowing that Baaeed is here, and that'll bring us to the 2 Baaeed. He breaks from the 1 post. Adayar breaks from hole 6. Baaeed, undefeated. He's never turned a hair wrong. He has been an impressive winner every time he's stepped out on the track. It's gotten close at times. Last year, when he won the QE2 right over this course on Champions Day, Palace Pier ran into the line, but nevertheless, a winner, and he's 4 for 4 this year. He won 3 straight Group 1s over a mile, took the big jump up to the mile and a quarter, plus a little extra in the Juddmonte International last time out, and he handled it with aplomb, won by 6.5 lengths. Really wasn't a question, and he should do the same here. It was a tough field that day. They tried, they brought the big guns, basically, to take him in his first try around this distance, and really that being Misriff, who might be a couple low, but to me this field is not leaps and bounds better. Maybe a couple that would maybe cut the gap by a couple lengths, but still won't be anywhere close to him when it's all said and done. The 3 breaking from hole 4 is Bay Bridge, Sir Michael Stout's runner, who, last year and into this year looked like he was a really, really big player. Potentially in this division, he went on a very nice win streak in 2021. Started off with a big Group 3 victory to kick off 2022. Ran a huge race as a heavy favorite at Royal Ascot in the Prince of Wales, and just couldn't get by State of Rest in a very tough field. But his one run since did not offer much encouragement. It was in July at the Coral Eclipse. He was beaten by Vidani, in Misriff. These horses have come back to do decent things, but at the same time, he really just never looked comfortable that day. And I think that he hasn't run since. He runs into Baaeed. I think Adayar's probably better than him. Orsu had his opportunities to grab that Group 1 earlier in the year when those types weren't around, but nowadays I don't know if he's going to have it, especially not having run since early July. Dubai Honor is the 4 for William Haggis, a horse who always kind of knocking on the door at the lower levels, and then his few runs at the Group 1 level have not been too strong. He was second in this last year. It was a very impressive effort. Can't deny that, but it was also, it felt like a few had fallen off form. It felt like he handled the ground a lot better than a few others, and it was really just a career performance in my eyes that he has been able to replicate this year. No wins in 4 starts and has winless in 5 starts since the run in this race last year. Couple seconds last time out. Tried the September Stakes at Kempton, finished behind Mostadov, who really didn't do much in the Arc. Now, I'm not going to fault him for that because he was in a bit over his head that day, but still, that's kind of just an overall reflection of this horse. And he was a heavy favorite that day and really was no menace. And I don't think it was the surface thing. I really don't think it's hard to translate your turf form to the all-weather. Before that, well beaten by Baaeed, beaten 9 lengths in the Juddmonte International as well. So there's already that overlapping form. Hasn't shown much this year. Pretty easy pass. Helvic Dream is the 5 from hole 2. Irish shipper in here. He is a very big price. He is a Group 1 winner this year. He did take out the Tattersalls Gold Cup back in May, but 2 losses since then. Really unimpressionable. Or I should say, he won it last year. 2 runs since then this year. So point is, it's not very great. He was last in this year's Tattersalls Gold Cup after winning it last year, and only had one other run before that to kind of get him prepped for that spot, a Group 2 or Group 3, and did not go well. So it'd be a minor miracle if this horse was able to win against anybody in this field, and the fact throw Baaeed in, not much better. Another Irish shipper in here, Max Swiney, number 6 from hole 5. He's a horse who early on in his career did a lot of good work, was a Group 1 winner as a juvenile, was a Group 1 winner as a 3-year-old when he won the Irish 1,000 Guineas. Since then, it just hasn't clicked. I mean, he ran such a big race that day when he beat his stablemate Poetic Flare. It was a great race that day. And the field in there looked pretty strong at the time. But since then, it's just been struggle after struggle. He's only finished in the money, using American terms there, once. And that was in this race last year, but he still was never beaten Seal Away. And 3 runs since, 2 coming earlier this year at the Curragh. Unimpressionable. He was 7th out of 8 in that Tattersalls Gold Cup. And before that, was coming off a bad run at Shaw Tin, and after that, he was well beaten in a Group 3. So just nothing suggesting he's really trained on from that late 2-year-old, early 3-year-old form, and he's a hopeless long shot again in here. 7 is Royal Champion, breaks from hole 8. He's taken the jump up. He's been doing the handicap in lighter group stakes thing, and with some success. He's put together a pretty strong record over this past year. It's included a couple victories last time out, one over the distance in mid-September in a listed stakes. And there were some okay horses in there, some horses that aren't really Group 1 caliber, but horses that are veterans of the European circuit. Stormy Antarctic, Marie's Diamond, Yukon Glen, they were all in there, and he beat them, but that's not much when you have to face Baaeed and even the second level in here like an Adayar and maybe a Bay Bridge. So it doesn't do much for you, right? He's a horse that's on the improve, but he still needs to show a lot more improvement to handle this group. And if you look at some of his form against the top level, at times it hasn't been too strong. I mean, I look back to, I know it was about a year and a half ago now, but when he ran in the Dante at York for prepping a potential Derby run, very well beaten by horses like Hurricane Lane and High Definition, who are mid to lower Group 1 caliber horses as things stand. So he hasn't really gotten much better since then either. It's been progressive against handicap horses, but at the group level, I don't think there's much. 8 from post 7 is My Prospero, a horse who looked really good over the summer as a miler, and he was 3rd at Royal Ascot, lost only by a neck to Caribus in the St. James's Palace. So clearly a very talented horse. I think he has that going for him, and he did take out a win over this distance last time out, but that was in mid-July. He's another one that's coming off a bit of a layoff. But that was a solid Group 2 win, and the distance certainly was not something that affected him. So I don't think it'll be something that affects him here. I think he's actually kind of interesting in some exotics and to use underneath outside of some of those bigger names. I know there's probably a clear top 2 and maybe top 3 in here. Really, it's a clear top 1 and 2 very close, 2 second level types in relation to that top horse in Baaeed. But this is a horse who's doing a lot of right things. Three of his last 4, of course, only lost by a neck on a very high level Group 1. Don't like that he hasn't run since mid-July, but there's reason to suggest a better than improved run here, and he can handle all types of grounds, which is really good for him as well heading into this spot. Obviously not a win candidate in my eyes. I think he can maybe make some noise underneath, and more so can make noise as a 4-year-old next year. And finally, Stone Age. Busy year for this Aidan O'Brien trainee. He'll be ridden by Ryan Moore. He's a very big price. He was a horse who looked pretty sharp heading into Epsom earlier this year. He was about 7-2 on Derby Day, and he could only manage 6, and then he's lost 3 starts since then. And the Belmont Derby was a race where, with a little bit more pace pressure on Classic Causeway, this guy probably wins, or at least runs a very close second to Nation's Pride, who he wasn't far off of. But then in Saratoga, things worked out a lot better, and he could only manage a 5th, and that's not very good, obviously. I will say he ran okay in the Irish Champion Stakes, beaten less than 3 lengths. I know he was 5th of 7, but it was still a decent run in a very tough race. So you can't fault him for that because it was a salty group, and he's been running in the lighter Group 1 since Epsom, but nevertheless, he's not much of a factor in here. I don't think he can really run better than a very, very brave third. So that's about where things stand for Stone Age. One that maybe is a proper 3-year-old or 4-year-old next year after it's an okay 3-year-old campaign, but he's not a player in here. So it's pretty self-evident. It's Baaeed and everybody else. I'm expecting a huge performance to cap off what's been a stellar career. Very excited to see what show he can put on, and just enjoy it. He's one of the greatest sources we've seen in a long time, anywhere in the world, especially in Europe. But it's going to be a show, no matter what happens. I think he's going to win by multiple, and you can figure out what to do underneath from there if that's how you want to do it. For me, this is a sit back and watch race. That's really the only way to look at it in my eyes. Hope you enjoyed. Good luck if you are playing, and we'll see you next time here on Racing Rundown.